Hey everyone, Nike here. I wanted to discuss the Phalanx Strength Warrior, its place in the meta, and how and why it can and will be replaced in the future. First, a warrior's job is primarily to buff the team with banners, might, and empowered allies. Generally speaking, people tend to bring one PS warrior per 5-person sub-squad in order to make sure that each sub-squad has might covered. Since banners affect 10 players, each warrior usually only brings one banner, and this frees up an additional utility slot to bring a DPS increasing utility skill. This point will become important later. The first thing we need to define is the overall team value of a PS warrior. A Condi PS warrior currently benchmarks at about 27k DPS. Additionally, that warrior brings a banner worth 340 stats, which boosts the total team DPS of the 9 other players in the raid by about 12,000. In a full power team, EA is worth about 4,000 DPS. In a full Condi team, EA is worth about 1,200. So we'll say that a single PS warrior adds roughly 41,000 DPS worth of value. This is incredibly high, and most people are well aware that that number is far beyond the value of any DPS class, and probably a good deal higher than even a top-tier Condi Druid player. I think it goes without saying then that replacing a warrior in every raid squad is practically impossible. The value of banners plus EA is insurmountable, even if the might stacking aspect of Phalanx Strength became unnecessary. That said, there are some very interesting things to consider here. Since a single warrior can bring both banners, it's worth considering the value of a warrior with 2 banners and a warrior with no banners. If a single warrior brings 2 banners, he loses about 1,000 personal DPS, but gains another 12,000 in total value, which brings his total value of the one warrior with 2 banners to about 52,000 DPS. The second warrior with no banners gains roughly 500 DPS, but contributes a total value of around 30,500. So 53,000 DPS. You're not going to replace that pretty much ever. 30,500 DPS? That can be replaced. If you somehow had a build that could make the same amount of might or more than a PS warrior, and also make about 31,000 personal DPS, it would be a superior option to replace the second warrior in your group with that. Or another build that could make maybe below 31k DPS, but brought its own unique buffs to bring its value over 31,000. Already there are groups experimenting with this. Scepter Warhorn Condi Ellie makes roughly 32,000 DPS on the Golem and stacks a ton of might. In many cases, it's superior to having a second warrior. Against large hitbox bosses like Gorseval, Samurag, or Keep Construct, it's probably very superior to a second warrior. Which brings us to possible future elite specs. Imagine that in the X-Pack, for example, we get a trait for Engineer that says when you kit swap, your allies gain 5 stacks of might for 15 seconds with a 5-second ICD. Let's say Condi Engi makes about 33k DPS with Aristocracy runes, and brings pinpoint distribution to the other 3 Condi professions in its group. We would say that this Engi now makes roughly 36,000 DPS in value, making it superior to the second warrior by a good deal. Suddenly, the idea of bringing 2 warriors into every raid group is dead. Or let's get crazy. What if the X-Pack changed the Ellie Scepter Fire attunement so that the burns from the auto attack on the Scepter Ellie were double in duration? That would probably make it just valuable enough to be clearly superior to a second warrior at any boss, regardless of hitbox size. Or let's say the current Condi Rev gets a DPS boost by about 10% in the X-Pack, along with the ability to stack 10 more might than it currently does with its existing Blast Finisher package. The point is, the value of a second PS warrior is not that high, 30,500 DPS. Even if Condi PS never sees a nerf, the second warrior in each group has its days numbered. It will not likely survive the X-Pack if it even makes it that long. Thank you guys for watching, and if you have any questions or comments, please answer below, and I will be sure to get to them, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Thanks, guys.